Well, Brooke Leach has come into the series determined to prove that women can mix it with the men, and she certainly has for race 2. She'll start from pole position.
What should they know about this class that's going to bring them into Swift racing?
I think a lot of people are waiting to see how big it's going to be. I think that's the main thing. But like for everyone out there, I reckon everyone should have a go at it. If you're coming up from karts or stepping into something, it's a perfect category. Cars are just so easy to handle and you get so much support, it's unbelievable. It's a really good category.
It is a great category, and Jessie Dixon was able to take the victory in the first race of the weekend.
I haven't been in the car since Malabar, but one solid round in the cars definitely helped me a lot. Entering this round, I've done a few laps at Winton before as well, which has really helped, and it's been good to be at the pointy end of the field.
Race 2 of the Australian Swift Racing Series at Winton Motor Raceway for round 3 of the Shannon's Nationals, and Grant Boyd and these guys really turned on a great show at the opening round at Malabar.
Yeah, they certainly did, and race 2 should be pretty much the same. Brooke Leach on pole, Alan Jarvis alongside Morgan Harbour. Then we go to Rex McKitchen, and we're expecting a big race out of him, out of position number 4 too.
Reverse grid start. Brooke Leach got away quite nicely, but Alan Jarvis on the outside heading down to turn 1. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. And then, of course, the championship contenders, McCutcheon and Dixon, battling a little bit further back.
Alan Jarvis might be difficult to track down in this race, being a reverse grid. Oh, big sideways action from the 6th car as it gets right out there. Morgan Harbour pushing that accelerator really hard down through turn 1 and 2.
That was a nice save. We've seen plenty of people come unstuck doing that this weekend because they're rear-wheel drive. These are front-wheel drive, a little bit different driving style, as we see Alan Jarvis making good ground out of that fantastic start.
Well, he needs to do it, doesn't he? On the opening lap, he managed to push hard down into turn 1, just run a little bit wide through that section of the circuit, but now, as you can see, with plenty of understeer as the car on cold tyres dances all over the racetrack. But look, big challenge going on behind. It's McCutcheon coming up, picks up another spot now up into 2nd. He's making hay while the sun shines too.
Jessie Dixon down the inside of Harley Phelan. Yeah, absolutely. Nice move there as he works his way back through the field. Nice to see him doing a strong job this weekend because he was very sharp early in the weekend. He and Rex McCutcheon battled very closely over the pole position for these races. He did a great job, ended up taking out race 1, which was a nice result. And McCutcheon looks like he needs to make amends for that loss, and he's keen to do that because he's the most experienced guy in this field, Grant, having done a full season and a half of this in New Zealand.
Well, McCutcheon looks very racy, doesn't he? He's sitting there in 2nd spot, and he's hounding Alan Jarvis at the moment. And this is just the opening lap, remember. You can see he's having a I thought he was going to have a dive up the inside in the final turn. That would have ended in disaster. But he's lining himself up for an onslaught down into the first turn, which is always precarious here at Winton.
Alan Jarvis, of course, son of Captain Rob Jarvis. Rob was due to be here this weekend, but caught in South America with that big hullabaloo about the ash cloud. That stopped him flying in time. He wasn't able to make it, so that was 1 car less in the field. Disappointing for the promoters of the Australian Swift Racing Series as we go on board now with Brooke Leach.
Have a look at her looking in the revision mirror. Now, this is not the best way to drive around the Winton race circuit. It's a very technical place. You need to be concentrating on your racing lines. And with Brooke looking in the revision mirror all the time, it's going to distract her from the operation needed.
She's been doing an interesting job this weekend, been fairly quick, as you see Ned Kelly on the front bumper there of Rex McCutcheon. He's going to be hoping to hunt down some people in front of him here and get himself towards the front of this field. But Brooks had a few hairy moments into that particular segment of the circuit through the turn 9, 10, 11 sequence. She's gone in there under brakes on a couple of occasions, fairly deep, and clipped the inside curve, which has thrown her across the track.
Jarvis, did he almost get a tag then? Did not settle the car down through that right-hander. But it looked very close between the two as we go on board with Jess Dixon. The ice brake machine, looking back, you can see a great challenge taking place.
It looks like Brooke Leach and Morgan Harbour fighting a little bit further back. Brooke's been doing it hard as she gets a couple of wheels in the air there. She's shown that she's more than capable of matching the boys. That hasn't been a problem, but it's miles, Grant, isn't it? It's like anything. Any of these new categories, you need to be turning plenty of miles as you need to work yourself further up the field.
Well, she's, excuse the pun, she's prepared to manhandle the car, and that's what's required in these machines, getting them through the corners at the maximum velocity possible, and she's proven, so far that she's capable of doing that. Look at this battle up front, still nose to tail between these two. very similar driving styles as well. Makes it a very interesting battle.
What's interesting, Alan Jarvis is one of few drivers who's had prior experience to the Australian Swift Racing Series. He contested the series over in New Zealand against Rex McCutcheon, but one guy who's new to it, Ryan McLeod, we caught up with him in the pits.
Look, I can tell you from experience, I've raced most categories in the country now, and bang for buck, you can't go past a category like this. The cars are absolutely equal. I've just turned up and jumped in the next one they had ready, and it's exactly the same as what everyone else has. It's got a few little adjustments you can make, and but the best thing is it's cost effective. You know, you can drive the car on the edge. It's absolutely great fun, and you know, I've had just as much fun driving that as if I was driving the Commodore Cup or the V8 Supercar.
That's a big wrap, isn't it? Whether it's a Swift or a V8 Supercar, he enjoys driving both.
Interesting for Ryan McLeod. He was entered this weekend to run in the Commodore Cup Enduro, the Ashley Cooper Memorial, but had an engine failure in his car, as we see Rex McCutcheon with a big dive up the inside of Alan Jarvis.
And made it stick too. Now, can Alan Jarvis fight back? He does have the opportunity under braking down into the left-hander, but McCutcheon's just given himself a little bit of breathing space. Nice and controlled. Look how smooth that was. Just missed the apex by a little bit, and of course run wide as a result. But outside of that, leaving that braking to the last moment forced the issue.
Battle continues between Brooke Leach and Morgan Haber. A little bit further back in the field. They've both been doing a good job, of course, both new to this category and new to this style of racing. Brooke Leach has had previous experience with the Aussie racing cars, which of course are rear-wheel drive, a lot more horsepower than they've got with the Suzuki Swift, 95 kilowatts at the wheels. They've really got to use momentum and keep that momentum up as they get around the circuit and battle for position too. So really got to try and avoid that break.
Well, as hard as Haber is trying, he can't get past Leach. Those two, you can see they're still locked together. It looks like he might be having a little bit of a go in the background. Yeah, now the overtaking manoeuvre, runs wide, then tagged around, and Leach has gone straight into the tyre wall. Well, both of those cars will be sitting by the side of the track, broken and a little bit disgusted will be the drivers.
Well, you can see there a little bit of understeer, actually a fairly large bit of understeer for Morgan Haber as he went into the corner, ran a little bit wide, rejoined the circuit, and unfortunately, as you see there very graphically from on board with Brooke Leach, tagged the back end of her car and fired her off the course. That's a little bit of damage to both vehicles. They'll both be eliminated from this race, but I'm sure with the amount of spares the Swift Racing team have back in the pits, they'll be back for race 3.
Typical race car driver. No, I'm fine. How's my car? How much is it going to cost?
At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. But interestingly too, we're talking about having plenty of spares in the pits. When they started this series, they built 15 cars for the first round at Malala. Didn't have 15 competitors, but still this weekend at Winton Motor Raceway, they've arrived with the full complement of cars. A number of drivers were keen to enter this weekend. Some of them, like Rob Jarvis, were unable to. He was caught out by Mother Nature. Others have said to me, Sean, look, we're a little bit cautious about jumping in too early. We're going to sit on the fence. Unfortunately for the Swift Racing Series, that's not going to help them. They need entrance. You talk to every one of the drivers in this field. We just heard from Ryan McLeod. They love it. They say it's fantastic racing. Okay, it's not a V8 Supercar, but it's not supposed to be. This is training ground. This is where you've got identical cars. Driver skill comes down to being the point of differentiation between the front of the field and the rear of the field. As we see Alan Jarvis take a look up the inside of Rex McCutcheon. This is great racing. Doesn't matter which way you look at it. So far as racing's concerned, this is fantastic.
Well, McCutcheon, the Kiwi, was able to get the lead, but he's not able to pull away. Alan Jarvis is staying with him, and that'll give Alan Jarvis a fair amount of encouragement too. You can see only about a car length or so between the two down in the braking area. As we go on board with Jess Dixon, nothing in the revision mirror at the moment. That's going, well, now there is, but just picked up another spot.
That's Ryan McLeod. It's interesting, these two are battling at the front of the field. That's allowed McLeod and Jesse Dixon to close in. That's not what Rex McCutcheon wants. He wants to get away. He doesn't want to be caught up. As you see Ryan McLeod waving at the pits, big thumbs up. He's all smiles this weekend after his debut run in the Swift Racing Series. But Rex McCutcheon will be very keen to get away from Alan Jarvis and make sure that that doesn't allow to Jesse Dixon to close up onto his tail, because that's the championship battle now between the two, as we see on board Jesse Dixon running very wide through turn 2.
Interesting to note that they're both taking very different racing lines. Same car set up identical, but Ryan McLeod choosing to go for a tighter line and almost step the back of the car out as he went down into turn 1. They are on the final lap, so there's not far left to go. The challenges are going to be limited.
Interesting to see whether Jesse Dixon takes a big dive up here, up the inside of Alan Jarvis for position. He'll be very keen to. Will he do it? Oh, very squirrely under brakes there. Jarvis nicely protects his line.
Down through this section of the circuit they go. A couple of overtaking opportunities left. They're nose to tail. Rex McCutcheon out in front at the moment. He's in Ned Kerry territory, and he's got the number plates on to prove it as he flies the flag for the old bushranger. That's the title he's trying to pick up today, to be a little bit wild, a little bit rebelly, and take out a victory.
Nice to see the young man from New Zealand continuing on with this performance. The one thing he did admit prior to this race, Grant, was that the Aussies are closing in fast. They've adapted to this style of racing with the front-wheel drive Swift very, very nicely, and he's a little bit concerned about just how quick Jesse Dixon's coming at his championship lead. So he'll be very happy if he can pull this off and get it to the line to take that victory and add some more valuable championship points.
Jarvis still holding down this spot, and he should be able to maintain it. Down through the final turn, you can see the car twisting as he tries to force its way through there, but the checkered flag is out, and it's a Kiwi victory in race 2 of the weekend.
Nice result there coming to the line for Alan Jarvis to take position 2. And in third place there, you've seen Jesse Dixon. That'll help his championship too after a fairly poor start. Ryan McLeod in 4th position ahead of Harley Phelan and the retiring Brooke Leach and Morgan Haber. Rex McCutcheon, that's a couple of races out of the way now. You're not doing too badly. You seem to have got the edge back on the Aussies.
Yeah, well, I had a great start, which obviously helps out a lot. It's a really tough track to pass, so you can't go and make the moves real quick early in the race. But definitely looking forward to the final race to try to get around and win again, hopefully.
Closely matched cars means closely matched racing, and then you're fighting over the same piece of tarmac. How do you deal with that? I mean, you just got to keep your head and keep fighting, or do you give people room?
Well, there's heaps of pressure, and you got to think about all the other guys on track at the same time, but you know, you do have to give room sometimes. You got to sit back and wait and find the right opportunity. It's all about consistency and trying to make the right move, really. Definitely.
Brooke Leach, race 2, very interesting. Your car's in bits behind you. Clearly something's happened.
Yeah, it's all racing. Morgan come up the inside of me, overtook me, spun off the track. I sent him off the track, started around the outside, and he just come back on and cleaned me straight into tyre war.
One of the hallmarks of this class is it is so close, so these things are bound to happen. How do you tune your brain to just keep fighting?
Oh, it's racing. It's going to happen now and then. You just get out there and get back into it.
Car damaged badly?
A little bit of damage, a bit of a cracked chassis and stuff going on, but we'll get it ready for next race. So.
And how's Morgan going to approach the next time round, and how are you going to approach him?
I'm still not going to give him any room. If he wants to come up the inside, that's his choice, but it's all race and it's good fun, and yeah, we've been mates for a long time now, so yeah, just get back out there and have a good time.
Well, Alan Jarvis has found a new place to call home, and it's the Australian Swift Series.
How much did these things surprise you once you all got on track and started battling for position? They're a pretty handy little race car.
Well, yeah, we actually went and ran 2 rounds in the New Zealand series, and to watch those guys over there that they've been running for 3 years together as a group, it's just unreal. You know, one missed gear, one overcorrection, that kind of thing, you lose 4 spots and it's gone, and it takes you laps and laps and laps to make it back up again. But yeah, here it's great with a small group. You know, we sort of got to know each other pretty well. We can race side by side, and it's been really great.
Interestingly, Rex McCutcheon had the advantage early in the piece because he's done plenty of miles in New Zealand. You have too, but he's really forced the Aussies to dig deep.
Rex has just been the one to beat, basically. In New Zealand, he's putting in strong finishing positions. He's in sort of, he's probably in that top 5 group that would have a chance of winning it next season. And he's showing that here with us, new to the series, new to the cars, new to the concept. He's really showing it to us, so yeah.
Final race of the program, round 2 of the Swift Racing Series for round 3 of the Shannons Nationals at Winton Motor Raceway. Be very interesting. There's not much separating Jesse Dixon, the coming young man from Australia, versus Rex McCutcheon, the Kiwi with all the experience in this Swift racing competition.
Alan Jarvis will start on the 2nd row of the grid. Ryan McLeod out of 5th spot, and Harley Phelan will round out the 7 cars that will take part. On board with Brooke Leach, and great evasive action to not collect the car in front of her that stalled on the grid.
That would have been interesting. That was Morgan Haber. Of course, she came together quite graphically into this sequence of corners in race 2. They've rebuilt both cars. They're both back on the grid. That would have been diabolical had she cleaned up the back of Haber off the start.
Those two are starting to get a little bit of history, aren't they, already?
A little bit too close in contact-wise as we see Ryan McLeod look down the inside of Rex McCutcheon. The Kiwi off the front rows had a poor start. That's allowed Jessie Dixon to get away in front, and the ever-consistent, the ever-there, Alan Jarvis holding down position 2.
You can expect a big race out of Ryan McLeod. He's had a couple of goes in the car now. He's come to terms with it, and we'll start to see some of that great driving style that he's known for. But he sits there in 3rd spot at the moment with 2 victims sitting in front of him.
Victims indeed. Nice drift through that nice turn 4 sweeper for Alan Jarvis. That was a very nice move. Turn 5 rather. He's doing a great job coming to grips with this car, and he's all over the back there of Jessie Dixon. He'll be hoping that he can have a bit of a challenge on the lead as he tries to look up the inside.
Yeah, look at that. Very interesting between these front runners, isn't it? Nose to tail on this opening lap, and I'll be keeping my eyes very closely peeled on the red car of McLeod. Is he going to have a go in the braking area? No, he's going to try and hang out to turn 1 and see if he can stay right up behind Jess Dixon.
Interesting to see a very wide Alan Jarvis coming into turn 10 there. And what was interesting to note too is Rex McCutcheon doesn't seem to be making any ground, having dropped back off the start. Brooke Leach is all over him as McLeod comes down the inside. Will he hold the position? Nice job.
Well, I thought he might have waited till turn 1 to have a go at Jarvis, but he thought, why not? The opportunity's there. I've got the momentum. Now he'll set his sights on Jess Dixon, who's the only other competitor he needs to get round.
Rex McCutcheon will be a little bit nervous about this, seeing arch rival Dixon getting away at the front of the field. If he can't bring him in, this is going to really close the points gap at the pointy end of the field. Of course, McCutcheon won quite comfortably the opening round at Mallala, but Dixon showed that he was going to be capable as Alan Jarvis runs very, very wide through turn 2.
Well, I know you're supposed to keep the momentum up through the turns, but Jarvis taking that to extremes, and McLeod missing the apex. It's cost him. He's around. Jarvis, does he tag him eventually? Has 3 avoidances before he finally gives McLeod a bit of a thump and says, if you can't stay on the track, get off.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? There's one of the front-wheel drive intricacies is that once you get a little bit unsteady, you really got to keep the boot into it to make sure the front wheels are dragging the rear of the car as you see him get into a huge tank slapper. And that's it. There, Jarvis nowhere to go.
Poor Jarvis. He's had about 4 goes at trying to avoid a collision. Now he gets caught up with Leach.
He's in another one.
Hasn't this race come alive?
Absolutely.
It's on for young and old, and unfortunately, Jarvis has a big target on the back of his car at the moment.
Just look to feed a wheel there to Brooke Leach as they went into the next turn, but she's got away with it. Look at the replay there. Opened the door and then closed it. Unfortunately, Brooke Leach was there. She's another one that's found plenty of contact this weekend.
Well, doesn't Jarvis know, ladies before gentlemen?
Well, I think he's probably learned it now. It'll be interesting when they get back to the pits later. But what's interesting too is this is the hallmark of one-make racing, isn't it? I mean, everything is so close. Here as we see Jarvis come up beside her, probably to explain that maybe you need to let me through here. It's my turn. Yes, he's got up the inside, but I wasn't sure whether or not he's going to gesticulate and just explain the way things should have gone on that previous sequence of corners. As Brooke Leach is back again. Thank you very much. Door open. I'll do it again.
Oh, good on her. Great overtaking manoeuvre too. She did the crisscross. The door was left open by Jarvis, and she made him pay for it. He's obviously got a little bit more speed, a little bit more experience in the Swift. We'll have a go in turn 1. This could be precarious. Leach gives just enough room for Jarvis to stick the nose up, but he decides to back out of it. Now he'll come under pressure from the clean duck machine.
Harley Phelan's been creeping up the order this weekend, doing double duty with his Commodore saloon car because he's got a little less horsepower. He's got 4 cylinders instead of 6. He's not making bad use of them. He'll be interesting to watch as he comes further to grips with this category.
And that's the great thing about one-make series racing. You saw a few moments ago, Alan Jarvis was out in front of Leach, and all of a sudden, 2 cars back, drops 2 spots in almost as many turns. Once you get off the racing line and your momentum slowed as Leach has a moment, a big moment. Does she gather it up? Yeah, oh, yes, no, Gonski.
Oh, another tank slapper. And again, the hallmark of front-wheel drive cars. Once the back starts to come around, unless you can drag it forward and make it point in the right direction again, and not enough horsepower probably in these little Swift racing cars to do that, you're gone and around you go. She's done that a number of times this weekend, but what it goes to show, Grant, is she's not afraid to just keep looking for a line. This is the corner that's brought her unstuck on numerous occasions over the course of the weekend. a number of bites at the steering wheel, but around she goes again.
Look, I know she had a couple of goes at it, but that was a pretty good effort in lieu of the fact that these were a very light car and that was a high-speed section of the circuit. And she was quick with a reaction time, so it was just one of those unfortunate things that ended up catching you out, and as a result you lose 2 points. Speaking of which, race leader on a charge at the moment. He's prepared to throw the car around.
Jesse Dixon can see his arch rival Rex McCutcheon in his rear vision mirror. The lights on high beam. He's pressuring, he's pushing him. He wants to force him into a mistake. I think Jesse's a bit wise to that, though. It could be an interesting result. The end of this might see the two of them tied on championship points.
Oh, Jarvis.
We see further back, Jarvis having a bit of a battle with Phelan again. Will he get up the inside? I'd say so. He's got the preferred line as Phelan makes it very difficult. Have a little bit of saloon car action, buddy. This is how we do it in the Commodore and Falcon class. You're going to have to work your way through there, and he's done so. That's a nice pickup from Alan Jarvis. That brings him back into third position.
If we say there's been a coming together, you can just assume that one of the cars is Jarvis. You can see he's been in the wars. Most of it hasn't been his fault, I've got to say, but he's just been in the wars right throughout this third race of the weekend here at Winton.
Wrong place at the right time as we see him continuing on. Harley Phelan still in there and very sideways.
Oh.
Ryan McLeod recovers from his big tank slapper a little bit earlier in the race.
And it won't just be his car that's red at the moment. His eyes will be exactly that way. With a couple of laps left to go, he will be on a charge. And I dare say, if I was Phelan and Jarvis, I'd stay out of his way.
Of course, he's a very experienced campaigner, the man from Racer Industries. I have to say, though, Grant, talking about these cars, I'm very impressed with this Achilles radial. The grooved slick, the Type 123 tyre. It's been developed for production car racing in Asia. We haven't seen much of it before now, but geez, they can take a hammering. In fact, last race, it's interesting to see the fastest lap of the race was the penultimate lap. So they're not losing any pace, which is just what a class like this needs. The last thing you need to worry about is severe tyre degradation. And if these guys are going to wear out a set of tyres, they're certainly going to wear out a set of tyres.
Well, if the tyres are able to go the distance, it's going to save you a bit of money, assuming you're not around Alan Jarvis, of course.
Well, assuming, exactly right. Watching Alan Jarvis again come back across the line. They'll be a little wary of him as they start the final lap of the race. But up front, it's all Jesse Dixon.
Yeah, out in front, but it's that battle further back in the field between Jarvis, Phelan and McLeod that's going to keep us entertained on this final lap, because Jesse Dixon's got nothing in the revision mirror at the moment. McCutcheon not able to close up this gap, and this rivalry will continue on for at least another round.
Of course, we head to Eastern Creek for the Blockbuster event, July 14 to 17, where these guys will join 9 other classes. It'll be interesting to see if this is the way this race ends. It's going to be very tight for championship points, and Rex McCutcheon is going to have a big job on his hands, as does Alan Jarvis right now on the final lap. Will Phelan have...
Oh, and up the inside goes McLeod. You could see that coming about 40 metres back. McLeod was always going to line it up. The moment that car steps sideways, he's picked up one spot. Can he make it 2 with just a couple of turns left to go?
That was a nice save by Phelan. There hasn't been too many drivers in this field today managed to save a tank slapper like that, but he's done it. The man is more used. Oh, he does it again.
Poor Jarvis was probably looking in the revision mirror and saying, no, not another hit. Well, it's a hit for Dixon. Headlights are ablaze. Checkered flag is out, and Jesse Dixon takes the win in race 3 of the weekend. Let's check the final results. McCutcheon finishes in second. Alan Jarvis, after being in the wars, finishes in third, and Ryan McLeod will round out the top 4. Well, Jesse Dixon's crew are pretty happy with the result of the weekend, and I'm sure Dixon is as well.
Jesse Dixon, it might have taken most of the weekend, but you got there in the end. That was a nice win.
Yeah, fantastic win. It feels great to take my first round win as well, and my third race win as well. Yeah, really happy. I knew I had to win the race if I wanted to win the round, so luckily got the jump off more Rex at the start, and just try to pull a bit of a lead and keep it at that.